guys. Today we're going to be talking about the negative effects that peer pressure has in today's society, based on the stories The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas and The Paper Menagerie, written by me, Eastonette Santos. In today's society, peer pressure is seen everywhere: schools, work, magazine, television, and even in our own homes. Peer pressure is a direct influence on people by peers, or the effect of an individual who gets encouraged to follow their peers by changing their attitudes, values, or behaviors to conform to those of the influencing group or individual. People all around us every day feel pressure to change who they are to fit in. Peer pressure is something that affects all of us in society. The stories The One Who Walk Away from Omelas and The Paper Menagerie both illustrate the disruptive effects of the peer pressure. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was a short story about a happy place called Omelas. In this place, they try to convince the reader that the people of Omelas are always joyous without ever truly speaking about it. In the story, they spoke of festivities that quite often took place in the city. These festivities were so loud that they could be heard through the city's streets for miles, as well as the highest mountain peak. All this happiness in Omelas at the cost of one boy's misery. In the city of Omelas, in a nearby underground cellar, resided a very malnourished child that survived off of half bowl of cornmeal and grease a day. The child looked to be about 6, but was really 10. Was described as perhaps being defective. Sitting in a corner covered in its own feces, the child resided in this dark, very faint natural lighting cellar, which was about 3 paces long and 2 paces wide. The child scarcely received any visitors, and no one spoke to him ever. The people of Omaha all knew this child that once lived a normal life was being kept hostage there. Some of the Omaha people understood why, and others just didn't. Some of them wanted to help, but no one ever did anything. No one wanted to be the one responsible for the town's misfortune, so they did nothing. How could they do this to a child, though? How could they be so pressured to sacrifice the life of a child for the greater good, as if the life of the child was of lesser value than their own? The children of Omelas were all described to be perfect, except for this kid. The people of Omaha were pressured to sacrifice the boy's happiness to live happily themselves. Many didn't agree with it, yet did nothing. No one wanted to take a stand and do something about it. They let the boy rot in a cellar. They all knew what they were doing was wrong, keeping the boy locked away to spend an eternity of misery, yet no one did anything. Like in the quotations of the story, they all knew it was there. All the people of Omelas. Some of them had to come see it. Others are content merely knowing it was there. They all know it had to be there. As the author explains, the people of Omaha knew it was wrong, yet no one wanted to take an act of righteousness. They were all peer pressured to act just like everyone else did, no matter how they felt about it on the inside. Another short story that displayed peer pressure is The Paper Menagerie. The story was about a biracial boy named Jack who was embarrassed of his Chinese mother from Hong Kong. The mother was purchased from a catalog by his American father and was brought to Connecticut, where both Chinese mother and son lived. Jack, the Chinese mother's son, was teased growing up because of his ethnic background and because he had origami animals for toys instead of action figures. Jack grew up to be resentful with his mother and refused to speak to his mother if she didn't speak proper English. They became strangers in their own household until she died of cancer, and he found one of his mother's old origami animals that he and his mother had played with together when he was a child. On the origami wrapping there contained a letter from his mother. In the letter, his mother wrote about how difficult it was growing up, and the only thing that made her happy was the thought of having him for a son, even though he treated her the way that he did. If it wasn't for the nosy neighbors and Jack's classmate, Mark, Jack would have never had such a temperamental behavior against his mother. The neighbors voiced their ignorant comments that Jack clearly understood. He seems like a normal enough man. Why would he do that? Something about the mixing never seems right. The child looks unfinished. Slant eyes, white face, a little monster. The racist attitudes were even more so when Mark yelled at Jack because he accidentally broke his Obi-Wan toy. This was expensive. You can't even find it in stores now. It probably costs more than what your dad paid for your mom. After this episode, Jack endured endless days at school where he was bullied. Jack was embarrassed. He grew up and got accustomed to resenting his mom. Society pressured him to become this way. Jack became accustomed to never wanting to converse with his mother if it wasn't proper English. As time passed, both parents and child became strangers to one another. It didn't matter how hard Jack's mother tried. Jack's ignorance blinded him from seeing the importance of family. That was until 2 years passed and he found a letter that changed his entire perspective of his mother. The moral of the Paper Menagerie story was very relatable. There are people that come from many diverse ethnic backgrounds who tend to have a much more difficult time with peers at school due to their upbringing being so different than. Peer pressure affects society all around us. Vogue magazine shows pictures of petite females, and People magazine glamorizes celebrities, which then pressures people in our society to tailor their lifestyle to resemble a celebrity's lifestyle as much as possible, even if it means going broke. Social media as well plays a tremendous part in peer pressure today. They encourage women to compete to be picture perfect, which in return pressures women to go under a knife to nip and tuck themselves to perfection. To society, if we aren't a size 2 with a small waist, a large bottom, and big breasts, we aren't good enough. We're always in competition to fit in. Peer pressure is also seen in schools. Friends peer pressure other friends to make hasty decisions that they later regret. This is the society we've created for ourselves. We all know it's wrong, but we are all cause of our own misery due to the pressures of wanting to fit in. I remember when I was a child being bullied myself. I too wanted to be accepted by my peers. I remember the amount of peer pressure there was in school to have the coolest clothes or the latest sneakers or the newest phone. My mother was a single parent and was poor. The pressure from my peers forced me to get a job after school just so I too could afford the latest trends and fit in with the people I thought and believed were my friends. I remember making decisions as a kid that were not the brightest, all to fit in with the rest. The ones who walk away from Omelas and the Paper Menagerie share a number of themes, but at their heart, they are both stories about negative effects of peer pressure, racism being taken for granted, and the importance of time, peer pressure. We deal with peer pressure every day. Peer pressure has been one of the causes of why later people then live with regret. It is something seen every day. Peer pressure has no age, gender, or ethnic preference. Peer pressure is the leading cause of why people lack uniqueness and creativity because they are too focused on being just like everybody else. Till next time.